Good morning, children. Sairam. So, again, I welcome you all with a happy heart. Children, I'm very anticipating that you all must be doing quite well, and hopefully, you all spend your vacation wonderfully. I'm sure, children, you all must have consumed your time productively. So, children, without any further delay, let's start today's lecture. So today children, we are going to study history second chapter, New Kings and Kingdoms, part 1. Children, do you remember history first chapter, tracing changes through 1,000 years? In first chapter we talk about different changes that occur in the thousand of years in India, right? So in second chapter, that means in New Kings and Kingdom, we talk about how new kings and kingdoms emerged during the medieval time period, right? Okay, let's see the content which we will cover in this chapter. First one is the rise of new kings and kingdoms in the early medieval period. Second, the most important topic actually, tripartite struggle, the position of Kannauj. Next one is Prashastis and land grants to the Brahmins. Warfare for expansion and wealth. Last topic but not the least, a closer look, the Cholas, right? Children, before moving further, let's understand the term of dynasty, kingdom and empire. So children, as I said, many new dynasty and rulers emerged after the 7th century. So first understand the meaning of dynasty. So dynasty means a family of ruler who rule over a country for a long period of time. Okay children, let's understand with the help of the example. So let's take an example of few dynasty. For example, the Gupta dynasty. And the Maurya dynasty. Children, you all have learned about the Gupta dynasty and Maurya dynasty in 6th standard. So just tell me, who was the founder of Maurya dynasty? Yes, Chandragupta Maurya was the first ruler of Maurya dynasty. Then his son Bindusar came to be in power. Then Bindusar succeeded by Ashoka. So this is how. So dynasty means a family of a ruler who rule over a country for a long period of time. For example, the Gupta dynasty and the Maurya dynasty. Right? Next one is the kingdom. Any country which is ruled by monarch, for example, a king or queen, is considered to be a kingdom. Right? Next one is the empire. An empire can be said is a large kingdom, or we can say that traditionally larger than the kingdoms, may consist many different countries or region under its control, which means empire is basically a group of countries, states or region which was ruled by monarch and also consists multiple kingdoms. Clear? For example, British Empire, right? So understand the meaning of dynasty, kingdom and empire, and what is the difference between the dynasty, kingdom and empire, children? Okay. So children, basically in first chapter, we saw the background how medieval period started, right? In second chapter, we understand how new kings and kingdoms emerged during this period. So let's start with a simple map. This would be show you the important kingdom that involved and that emerged during the 7th and 12th century. So children, as you can see in this map, basically there were predominantly three kingdoms. First one is the Gurjar Pratiharas, right? Second one is the Rashtrakoot, and the third one is the Pala. So basically Gurjar Pratihara, they just ruled Malwa, and Rashtrakoot, they were ruled a large part of Karnataka, and Palas, they were ruled over the Bengal. So beyond Pala, basically you had a Chauhans here. Chauhans, right? So you had a Chauhan Sayers who basically ruled over the large part of Delhi and Ajmer, right? And these Chauhan were also known as Chahamanas, right? So Chauhan basically ruled over the Delhi and Ajmer, and Chauhan were also known as the Chahamanas. So at that time, along with these predominantly kingdom, there were several small kingdoms existed in India, like Chandelas, Parmaras, right? And the Cholas, that means the South India was under the Cholas. Is it clear? So at that time, predominantly kingdoms were Gurjar Pratihara, Rashtrakoot, Palas. Delhi and Ajmer was ruled by Chauhans, that means Chahamanas, and South India was under the Cholas. So basically all these kingdoms, they just establish a very unique way of administration system and taxation system. Okay, now just move on to our first topic. So this is our first topic, emergence of new dynasty. So at that time, many influential people claimed their authority and they become king. How? Let's see. First understand who were Samant. Then we understand how these Samant, how these people, they just gained authority and they just become independent kings. So first understand who were Samant. So who were Samant? Samant basically big landlords or warrior chief, known as Samant or subordinates, right? Who were Samant? Big landlords or warrior chief. So by the 7th century, there were many big landlords and the warrior chief in different region of subcontinent. So the existing kings often acknowledged them, that means the Samant or subordinates, acknowledged them to their Samant or subordinates. These Samant and subordinates, they were expected to bring gifts to their kings. They were also expected to present at their king's court. They were also expected, they provide military support to their kings during the time of war, right? Basically these Samant and these big landlords and the warrior chiefs, they were also very powerful. Why? Because they have their own military power, they have their own region, they have their own wealth. So slowly and gradually these Samant and these subordinates, they just started to gain their power and wealth, and they declared themselves Maha Samant and Maha Mandaleshwara, right? So when these Samant and subordinates, they started to gain their power and wealth, they declared themselves Maha Samant and Maha Mandaleshwara. Children, do you know these Samant were not loyal for their kings. Basically, they were always ready to declare themselves independent. How? Let's understand with the help of the example. So let's start. This is our first example of Rashtrakuts, right? Rashtrakoot dynasty. Basically, they were not initially rulers. They were Samant, right? Rashtrakoot, they were Samant under the Chalukya's ruler. Clear? Rashtrakuts, they were not rulers. They were Samant under the Chalukya rulers. So, how they declared themselves independent ruler? Dantidurg. Dantidurg was the warrior chief of Rashtrakoot dynasty. He was the warrior chief of Rashtrakoot dynasty, and we can say that Dantidurg was the founder of Rashtrakoot dynasty. So Dantidurg basically he just overthrew Chalukya's overlordship and he established his independent kingdom. Like how? Basically, Dantidurg was not Kshatriya by birth. So he performed a ritual called Hiranyagarbha. Basically, this ritual talks about the rebirth of Kshatriya. And as I said, Dantidurg was not Kshatriya by birth. So he performed Hiranyagarbha ritual with the help of the Brahmins, right? With the help of the Brahmins. And he overthrew Chalukya's overlordship of the Karnataka and he declared himself independent and established his own kingdom. Is it clear how Samant they just gained their power and they declared themselves independent? Like Rashtrakoot. Rashtrakoot they were Samant under the Chalukya rulers. And who was Dantidurg? Dantidurg was the warrior chief or he was the founder of Rashtrakoot and he overthrew the Chalukya's overlordship and he declared themselves independent and established independent kingdom. Now in other case, man belongs to the enterprising family using military skills to carve out kingdoms. So one such instance was Kadam. Kadam basically was ruled by Mayur Sharman. Mayur Sharman was the ruler of Kadamba dynasty in Karnataka. Next one is the Gurjar Pratihara. Gurjar Pratihara was ruled by Hari Chandra in Rajasthan, right? So who was Mayur Sharman? Mayur Sharman was the ruler of Kadamba dynasty and Hari Chandra was the ruler of Gurjar Pratihara. And they both were Brahmins. They both were Brahmins. They both gave up their traditional profession and they just took to arms and successfully established their kingdoms. Kadambya they established their kingdom in Karnataka and Gurjar Pratihara they established their successful kingdom in Rajasthan. Is it clear? So they adopted and they just become warrior chief. Clear? Okay. Now move on to the next topic. Our next topic is administration in the kingdom. As I said, all these new kingdoms or kings they just establish a very unique way of administration system and taxation system. So at that time many of the kings they adopted very high sounding titles. That means they just give themselves very high sounding titles. For example, Maharaj Adhiraj, which means overlord of the kings, right? Second one is the Tribhuvan Chakravartin, means lord of the three worlds. Now the question is ki why these kings they gave themselves this high sounding titles. So basically children, they adopted or they give themselves this kind of high sounding titles in order to show their power, in order to demonstrate their power. That's why they adopted this kind of high sounding titles. So in spite of such high sounding titles, kings shared their power with Samant and with the association of peasants, Brahmins and traders. Kings collected taxes from producers, that is peasants, cattle keepers and artisans, and also collected from the traders. Now comes to the taxation system. Okay, children, do you know the inscription of Chola's ruler who ruled in Tamil Nadu refers to more than 400 different kinds of taxes. How many? 400 different types of taxes, and the most frequently mentioned tax is Veti. Veti is a kind of tax, right? The most frequently mentioned tax is the veti. This tax taken not in cash but in the form of forced labor or the kadmia or the land revenue. There were also taxes they collected, like thatching the house, the use of a ladder to climb the palm trees, access on successions to family property, etc. and etc. Okay, now why were the taxes collected by the kings? So why were the taxes collected by the kings? Kings collected taxes too. First one is finance their establishment. That means in order to run their huge empire, they collected taxes from the peasants, artisans, cattle keepers, traders, and so on. Right? This is the first. Now the second reason, construct massive structures like the fort, temples, and palaces. As we know that these rulers and kings, they demonstrate their power to build massive structures. So to construct these massive structures, they also need taxes. So for that they collect taxes. And the third basically reason was the wage war or to fight war. So clear, why were the tax collected by the kings? First, in order to run huge empire or establishment of the huge empire. Second one is construct massive structures like the fort and temples, and the third one is for the fight wars. Now next one is the prashastis. So what is prashasti? Let's understand first meaning of prashasti. Prashasti means is praise of. Prashasti means is praise of. So basically prashasti were Sanskrit poems, right? Prashastis was Sanskrit poem written by Brahmins. Written by Brahmins. Children, do you know, it is not necessary like whatever they written in prashasti was true. Why? Because prashasti authors always they just shows the achievements of the rulers. They tell us the way the rulers wanted to depict themselves. For example, as a great achievers, victorious, fearless, valiant, courageous, etc. But one of the Prashastis author who need a special mention here, Kalhan. He also composed his Prashasti for the king who just ruled over Kashmir. And unlike the other Prashastis author, Kalhana often criticize about the ruler and their policies. Right? So whenever these Prashastis authors, they just wrote about king's achievement, so the kings often rewarded these Brahmins by the grant of land. Is it clear? Whenever these Prashastis authors, they just wrote about the achievements of the rulers. So these rulers or kings, they often rewarded Brahmins by the land of grant. And these were recorded on copper plates. Where they have recorded? Where they have mentioned? On copper plates. And these copper plates, they were given to those who received the land. Okay. Now just look at this image. Basically, this is a set of copper plates, right? These are the copper plates recording a grant of land made by the rulers in 9th century, written partly in Sanskrit or partly in Tamil language. Can you see this ring, children? Basically, this ring holding all these copper plates together has secured all the copper plates together. Basically, this ring, as I said, this ring holding all the copper plates together and secured with the royal seal. That is indicate that this is the authentic document. Is it clear? Like these grant of land, they were mentioned on the copper plates, and these copper plates basically holding by this ring with the royal seal and and this copper plates were given to those who received the land. Okay children, let's recall once what we have learned today. So today we have learned during the period of 7th to 12th century, many new dynasties emerged in different parts of the subcontinent, right? Like the Gurjar Pratiharas, Rashtrakoot, Pala, Chauhan, Cholas, and so on. The new rulers were previously the big landlords or the warrior chief, and these warrior chief and big landlords working under the existing kings as subordinates or the samant, right? They gradually gained power and wealth, and thereafter they declared themselves Mahasamant, and Mahamandaleshwara means the great lord of a circle or region. Now they were independent lords. Clear? Now next one is Dantedurg. Dantedurg, Rashtrakoot chief, he overthrew his Chalukya. So who was Dantedurg? He was the warrior chief of Rashtrakoot, and Rashtrakoot, they were Samant under the Chalukyas. So Rashtrakoot chief overthrew his Chalukya's overlord and performed a ritual known as Hiranyagarbha, literally the golden womb, right? Some other lords like the Kadam was ruled by Mayur Sharman, right? And the next one is the Gurjar Pratihara, was ruled by Harvi Chandra. They both were Brahmins by birth, right? They both were Brahmins by birth. So they used their military skills to establish their kingdoms in Karnataka and Rajasthan. So as I said, like the Mayur Sharman and the Hari Chandra, they both were Brahmins. So they just gave up their traditional profession. They just gave up their traditional profession, and they just took to arms and established successfully their independent kingdoms in Karnataka and Rajasthan respectively. Next one is administration in the kingdoms. So many of these new kings adopted titles like Maharaj Dhiraj, means great king, overlord of kings. Next one is the Tribhuvan Chakravarti, means lord of the three world. And they do the shared power with their Samant as well as with the association of peasants, traders and Brahmins. Now, the producers, the peasants, cattle keepers, artisans were the main feeders of these estates. Basically, they just collect taxes from them. Next one is the Prashastis. Prashastis were composed by the learned Brahmins in praise of the rulers, right? And as I said, like whatever they just written in Prashasti, it's not true, because these Prashasti author, they just always wrote rulers' achievement. So it used to depict the rulers as valiant and victorious. Brahmins were also rewarded by grant of land. So one of the Prashasti author, Kalhana, basically, as I said, who need a special mention here, he just criticized about the rulers and his policies also. So Kalhan, long poem in Sanskrit, recorded the history of king ruled over Kashmir. He usually used a variety of sources, including inscriptions, documents, eyewitness accounts, and earlier histories in order to present his accounts, right? So that's all for today, children. So I hope you all understand all the topics which we have learned in this video, and rest of the topic we will cover in next video. Thank you, children. Have a nice day.